Greetings, friends. Mirabai Starr wrote, "On Shabbat we build a temple in time and take refuge there." What does it mean to build a temple in time? And then there's a fascinating Bible passage in Hebrews 4, verse 7 that reads, "Therefore God again set a certain day, calling it today. As was said, today, if you hear God's voice, do not harden your hearts." This is such an interesting call to the present, to today. So, in this Silent Sunday, I want to explore our relationship with time and what it means to build a temple in time, today. And I'm going to be using quite a bit of guided reflection, almost in a style of an intermittent meditation. And I'm going to invite you to really go inwards and notice what is evoked as we go through this. But just to begin with, I want to talk a bit about our minds that are really amazing. They're wonderful tools that allow us to imagine incredibly vividly. And they allow us to use our experience from the past to project into the future and plan accordingly. And this is an immensely useful skill. However, a downside is that we can get so caught in the mind's interpretation and fantasy that we live a large part of our lives in virtual reality. And many of us know this, and I've talked about this myself quite a few times, but knowing it doesn't make it easy to notice when we are caught in that virtual reality. And we need to begin to distinguish, to recognize the difference between the world of our thinking and what is here, what is real. And one of the fantasies of the mind that we get caught in is the construct of time. And in our minds, there's a kind of a number line that extends from long ago to way into the future. Or even from infinity past to infinity future. And many of us grew up with the sense of the future as, forever in heaven. And in terms of our personal story, this timeline ranges from our birth to our death. And in this sense of time, we treat the present moment as a slither that's sandwiched between the past and the future. And so when we hear instructions like be in the now, it's like trying to catch a fleeting glimpse of a rare animal. And we try to squish our attention into the present moment in case we lose it. Or we try to hold on to the present moment. And this feels like hard work with a sense of unnaturalness to it. But this notion of time is just a mental construct. It's very useful, to be sure, so that we can plan ahead and synchronize our movements together, understand what each other's talking about when we talk about time. But much of our life is so caught up in the sense of the marching along of time that we feel driven and worn out by it. And we have sayings like the sands of time are running out that make us feel anxious about aging and losing time. And we also get so caught in the mind's stories about the future and the past that we don't really experience life here and now, today. But I want to invite us into a shift of perspective with a question to ponder. Are you ever not present? Your mind might be elsewhere, but can you yourself drift off out of the present moment? And working with this brings a realization that the present moment is not a slither that is sandwiched between the past and the future. The present moment is all there is. It is the most natural place for us to be because we're here. We're present. And it struck me the other day, sitting outside under the beautiful evening sky, that the present moment is as vast as the sky. We're never not in the present moment. It's the most natural place to be. And eternity is not some time forever in the future. Eternity is the present moment. The eternal God is our refuge. The eternal God is the God who is here, now, real and present. So being in the now is the invitation simply to return to where and when you already are. You are presence. And you are in the presence of the already present one, whose name is I Am, in whom we live and move and have our being. But let's make this experiential, and I invite you to close your eyes because I'm going to be taking us through an imagination exercise. So let's begin with thinking about the past. Whatever comes to mind when you let your mind wander back over the past. Just give yourself the freedom to let your mind wander and allow whatever from the past to grab your attention. It could be regrets, resentments, if onlys, or it could be happy memories, times of being carefree or joy-filled. And notice what this memory does to your mood, to your body, your nervous system. Really get a feel of how this memory sits in and with you. Notice how it pulls at you and scatters you from presence. And now, noticing this whole scenario in your mind and how it affects you, ask yourself, can you reach out and touch this past that has such an impact on you? Is it real in this moment? Yes, its effect on your body might be real, but is this memory itself real in any way, except in your imagination? No, it's just a cloud floating in the vast sky of your presence, your awareness. Yet we allow it to seem so big. We allow it to name us, to shape our brains as we go over the same conditioned ruts of thinking again and again. And it doesn't even exist, except in our memories. But we cannot even trust our memories to be an accurate representation of the past. They often have a negative bias to them. So now gently leave that scenario from the past behind. Let it be the cloud that it is in the vast sky of your awareness, and let it float away, disperse. Might help to take a breath or two just to return to presence, where you actually have been all along. But now I invite you into thinking about the future, and let your mind go to a typical thought stream that you have about the future. Very often, this causes our nervous system to respond with anxiety, or our mood to shift to one of despair or overwhelm or hopelessness. So just take some time to notice this future scenario and how it impacts on you. Now ask yourself, can you touch this future? Does it exist in any way? Is it even inevitable? So much of what we project into the future is based on our past conditioning or on our memories, and so it's also likely to be tainted with negativity. Our past experiences and the conditioning of our minds have left us with such a limited color palette. So when we imagine the future, it is limited and leached by this color palette. And we don't see the infinite, generative, and wildly creative out of the box possibilities that can be born out of this moment. It takes a conscious choice to let go of our limited anthology of stories, of color schemes, resting into the open-endedness of the present moment and opening to the immensity of Creator God, to be able to move with the life-giving fountain of possibility and creative presence that can spring out of this moment. Both past and future are just clouds passing through our awareness, mental constructs. Yet we allow them to dominate our sense of life so much. And this shapes our sense of who we are and who God is. So let's sit with these questions for a while. We'll begin with, who am I? And the mind brings us various levels of answers. But these answers are also just thoughts that float through the mind. Are any of these thoughts real? Or images of ourselves, favorite images of ourselves? These are just fantasies of the imagination. So who am I if I don't refer to some thought or imagination or belief to tell me who I am? And allow yourself to feel into the quiet unknowing that opens up when you ask that question. Who am I when I let go of all thoughts, all imaginations, all images? Who is here? And the question, who is God? And again, the mind brings us various levels of answers, some based on our past experiences of the churches we attended, the theology we were trained in, our cultural conditioning. But these answers are also just mental constructs, imaginations. They may be culturally agreed on. That doesn't make them any less of a construct. Conditioned thoughts that float through the mind. Are any of these thoughts real? So who is God if I don't refer to some thought or belief or image to tell me who God is? James Finlay wrote, "In the foundations of the heart, God is present in our simple presence to life." And then he wrote, "The great risk of all spirituality is that it so easily becomes a surrogate for being present to life." How much of our sense of God has been a surrogate for being present to this God who is present in our hearts? So in this moment, allow yourself to feel into the quiet immensity that opens up when we ask that question, who is God, if I don't refer to some thought or belief to tell me who God is, if I don't fall onto some kind of surrogate belief and open to simple presence with the unknowing. And notice how it feels to surrender all of our knowing and rest into the vastness of unknowing, the humility of not knowing an answer, the beckoning silence of presence that doesn't need an answer, that is more vast, mysterious, and beautiful than any answer can speak to, can encapsulate. Meister Eckhart described that we sink eternally from letting go to letting go into the one. Now, let's let go of all thoughts, all mind streams. Gently notice and just let go and allow your awareness to return to where you already are, the present moment. Feel the ground beneath you. Feel the sturdiness that holds your weight. Let your body nestle into the heldness of this moment, this holding, here, now, this sacred temple in time. Feel yourself being breathed alive, breath by breath, and welcome the aliveness of this moment. If thoughts come up, just notice these for what they are, clouds passing through the sky of your presence, your awareness, this vast infinite sky of being. And let these thoughts drift off like the clouds that they are. leaving behind a clear, open expanse, as wide as the clear blue sky. And it's helpful to feel into these questions. What is here when we let all of those thoughts float off like clouds? What remains? And allow yourself to rest into the here-ness of here, the now-ness of now, vast, unboundaried presence. Who is here without having to call on some belief, memory, or projection? Rest into the quiet mystery of this presence. Now open your eyes and look around you at what is here. Just gaze at what you see. Hear what you hear without the veil of thought. Here we are in this temple in time.